This is Andrew Paul Cronin, and you're listening to the Q&A with A.P.C, the show that features conversations with artists, cultural figures, policymakers, performers, and other innovators living in Virginia. Episode 13, Lauren Meyer. This episode of the Q&A with A.P.C is made in partnership with ViBe Story Exchange, a community engagement project where stories of our shared human experiences are submitted, chosen, and paired with an artist who will create a performance based on the story. These story exchanges will be presented every first Friday from May through September at local businesses in the ViBe Creative District in Virginia Beach. Lauren Meyer is a gym owner, fitness expert, personal trainer, head coach, a former field hockey player at VCU, a wife, and a mother of two. She's been sponsored by the clothing company Lululemon and has trained everyone from 12-year-olds in middle school to NFL quarterbacks. In 2014, Lauren published an essay on her blog called Dear Body. The essay, which is in the form of a letter written to her own body, chronicles her struggle and dissatisfaction with her body image. Lauren Meyer's essay was chosen and was presented at the First Friday Story Exchange in May. And that pull-up bar, is that for pull-ups?
That is for pull-ups.
Okay. How many pull-ups can you do in a row?
Maybe 10.
My wife said that we should arm wrestle. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'll lose.
Okay.
But I don't have a problem losing.
Yeah.
Could we arm wrestle at some point?
I mean, you definitely lose, but...
Is that true? I'm sure I would.
Absolutely. We can arm wrestle.
So you've had a busy weekend because yesterday in Charlottesville, you got first place in the women's one-arm long cycle. What is that? Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is that?
It's a sport called kettlebelling that originated in Russia. Mm-hmm. And Meyer Fitness is kind of the only gym in the Hampton Roads area that are qualified to instruct the Russian sport of kettlebelling. So we have to travel to D.C. and Charlottesville and Detroit and all of those fun places just to compete.
How is it? Is it lifting it a certain amount of times?
Yeah, so there's 4 different strokes. There's the jerk, there's the snatch, there's the long cycle, and then there's the biathlon. So it's kind of like swimming. You get to pick your stroke, what you excel in, and that's the stroke you train for the next competition. So.
And how do you win?
So there's a weigh-in, just like wrestling. So it's your weight plus the density of the kettlebell that you choose to lift plus how many reps you can get in 10 minutes.
So it's a time thing with reps?
Yes.
How many did you do in 10 minutes? Well,
we had a 5-minute sprint competition yesterday. So I did 67 long cycles in 5 minutes with a 20-kilogram kettlebell.
How many pounds is kilograms?
Like transferred?
Yeah.
If you look like behind you, it's like it goes lightest to heaviest. I lifted the purples, which is all the way over there.
Yeah.
Are you going to? Easy. Don't break your back. Okay, so yeah.
It's like 30 pounds maybe?
Yeah, and then you have to put it to your chest and you just go for it above your head. One arm above your head. Maximum pace.
You grew up in Virginia Beach?
I did.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have an older sister and a younger sister, so
I'm
stuck in the middle.
Your dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps.
He was.
What was he like as a...
I mean, he's for sure my inspiration to my being. He is why I am the way I am. He's very strong-minded and extremely athletic. So I was somewhat the son he never had. He's a very honorable man. And growing up, I mean, it was a non-traditionalist pattern for me because He would wake me up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., and we'd go for long runs outside. Like, he kind of breeded an athlete in me.
Were you open to that as a kid? Or
I
did
loved it.
So it was something you kind of looked forward to?
Sure. I mean, since he was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, there was a years, that he would be in Saudi Arabia. So any time that I got to spend with my dad was extremely valuable to me. So if he woke me up at 2 a.m., I would be there by his side. So
did he teach you how to make your bed? I know that's like a super stereotypical
so
thing
funny,
to say.
because my husband and I were chatting about this morning, and I was telling him that making your bed is such a honorable, like, you wake up, you touch your feet to the ground, you make your bed, and already you feel so accomplished.
It's true.
Before you even use the restroom. Or so I feel like, yeah, he taught me how to make my bed, but it's continued with me, and I feel like it's a good thing to have.
Several years ago, one of my New Year's resolutions, which I try to do one every year, but one of them was to make my bed every day. And I was shocked for exactly the reason you said, that not only does it's a really strong feeling of accomplishment for a little task, and at the end of the day, it's so much nicer getting in a made bed,
isn't it,
than a non-made bed.
I agree. So how did that New Year's resolution work out?
It worked out great for several years, but it is not happening so much anymore.
But now your children are mimicking what you're doing every day, so maybe you should pick it up again.
That is true. In fact, I thought about it today, how I wanted to make the bed. And then actually it's a little bit of a thing that's been on the back of my mind today, a little bit of disappointment that I did not make the bed. So,
I mean, do you have a lot of like throw pillows and stuff? Is it complicated?
No, we have 4 pillows. There's 2 for each. I only use 1 pillow,
Okay.
and my wife uses 2.
Okay.
So there's an extra one that just sort of,
Hovers.
yeah. No, and we have a sheet that I use that she doesn't use, and a comforter. So it's very simple. There's not a lot of bedding.
You think you'll make your bed tomorrow?
I hope so, because then I'll be disappointed
I'll be
again.
thinking about you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You were an all-state softball and field hockey player in high school.
I was.
What does that mean?
That means only about 11 girls are selected in the state of Virginia, the best of the best.
So you got written up in the paper?
That's right. I got written up in the paper. For softball, I got to go to the All-Star Games, which is East Coast versus West Coast, the best of the East Coast and the best of the West Coast.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You got a custom-made jersey for that?
You do, yeah.
You still have that jersey?
Yeah, my mom actually took all of my jerseys and shirts, and she created a quilt for me.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it actually keeps me warm.
And you got a full scholarship for field hockey to VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. How much of a difference in competition was there from the high school level to the college level in field hockey?
In field hockey, it was a huge transition. One, because in high school you played on grass, and in college you play on AstroTurf. So it's a completely different sport when it comes to speed. But I love the challenge of everything. So
the turf is speedier because there isn't natural divots and things
Yeah.
like that, and turf or sand or whatever.
Sure, it's more predictable.
And
so.
also the speed of the athletes. So it's 2 speeds, the turf and also the abilities of the athletes.
Yes.
Did you have tutors in college as an athlete?
I did. I had personally had a severe learning disability all through my life. So I couldn't hear until I was 5 years old. And I was diagnosed with a learning disability almost immediately. And after numerous surgeries, all through high school and college, I had special accommodations for my learning disability. So, for instance, I took the SATs untimed with earphones, and in college, I got to take my test in a room with one professor in the room versus the entire class. So,
did you feel like an athlete or a student? Because the term is student athlete,
Sure.
which is something that the NCAA loves to say over and over and over and over again, just to maybe try to get people to believe it.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Did you feel like both, or what was your experience in terms of scholastically and athletics?
That's a very interesting question. My prime reason of going to college was athletics. It was always my goal. And along that line falls, academics. and you have to make a certain grade in order to stay a part of the team. So somewhere along the 5 years that I was at VCU, I fell in love with academics, but that wasn't my mission.
What kind of grades did you get in high school?
I was honor roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you had to work.
It never came easy. I mean, even in college when my teammates were out partying, I was the sit there and study my butt off, and nothing came easy. So
Right. Was there partying in college?
there was definitely partying in college.
Okay. That's
I
good.
cannot deny that.
Richmond's a fun place.
It is a very fun place.
You moved to Austin, Texas for a boyfriend.
I did, yes.
Was he living in Austin, or was he in college and moved to Austin?
Yeah, so my boyfriend and I started dating at 18 years old, and he moved out there prior to me moving out there. He was a year older than me, and he went out there to go to the University of Texas for film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so after about a year, I realized that, I'm really in love with this guy, and I'm going to follow him, and I'm going to go. So I packed up my Honda Civic EX Coupe with my life, and my parents were like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I think it's time for me to go to Austin now."
And your dad was like, "Oh,
yeah, he was
no."
like, "Grr, where's your ring? Don't move anywhere."
Was he
for a
like that?
boy." Yeah, I mean, we had been together since we were 18, and I moved out to Austin when I was 23.
Oh, okay. Well, you're old then.
Yeah, I was a little older, 22.
Yeah.
And then I just trucked 24 hours without stopping. And I got right outside the skirts of Austin. I was in Waco, Texas. It was about an hour and a half away from Austin. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And I stopped at a hotel, and I realized at that moment, like, I'm really doing this, we were very strong Christians, my boyfriend and I. So I decided to live in an apartment by myself, but I lived on the floor for a while because I couldn't afford a mattress.
You made it to Austin. You left the hotel from Waco and actually completed the journey.
Yeah,
okay.
I think the Waco hotel was like, wow, I'm really doing this,
Right. Serious shit goes down in Waco, doesn't it? How long did it last once you were in Austin with your boyfriend?
We actually dated up until I was 29 years old.
Oh, so that's a long relationship.
We dated about 10 years. And honestly, he was one of the two loves of my life, and I'm very blessed to have met him.
The second love moved you back to Tidewater, Virginia,
Yes.
which was your husband.
Yes.
I'm guessing he was the second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's my second.
How'd you meet him?
He was actually my boss. I trained professional athletes for a company in Austin, Texas called Competitive Athletic Training Zone, CATS. And he was my boss, and he overstepped his boundaries and hit on his employee, and now we're together.
Wait, all right, back up. So when you said you trained professional athletes, professional football players, basketball players,
Yeah,
hand-eye
SWAT team.
coordination,
Yeah.
foot speed.
Neurological development, endurance, eye tracking, like everything you can possibly think of. We were.
Anybody that we would know, famous people?
Colt McCoy.
Who is the backup for our Washington Redskins?
Yeah, he was probably the person you would know the most.
Okay.
Probably. So a couple of Olympic softball players.
But is your husband, it's kind of like the thing where sometimes I think with coaches, some coaches, they don't even look like they could throw a ball or run.
Sure.
And so is there ever a thing like, well, does this person even know what they're talking about? Like, why are they telling me to move my feet faster? Is there any of that? Did you ever experience that in that
I think
job?
I definitely believe that being a female in this profession is a very cruel thing, but empowering thing. When I stepped out to the UT football field for the first time to train University of Texas football players, it was almost a joke. They were like laughing.
You're in the lion's den with that crew.
And I kind of just looked at them and I said, you're about to get your ass kicked. So don't underestimate the power of a woman. Like I might be little, but I'm a firecracker, and they apologized directly afterwards for.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, they deserved it, I'm sure. Were you attracted to your now husband as a boss? Or not as a boss? Like as a person?
No, I mean,
Does he know that?
yeah.
Does he know
As
that?
a person, I was not attracted to him.
Like physically?
I actually despised him. It was kind of like this working relationship, and he would kind of set me in my place sometimes, and I didn't like that because I like to make my own rules. At one point, we got in this huge argument. Ever since then, like we were friends.
Do you remember what the argument was?
Yeah, I remember.
What was
We
the
had this
argument?
like anti-gravity treadmill that we've just brought into the facility, and we spent probably $1 million on it because it's for people with injuries, and you put these sexy spandex on, and it blows you up in this bubble, and you can't feel the pounding on your knees. And I can remember they brought this in, and I was still a part-timer at this facility, and I was like, what? You're going to spend $1 million on this Ultra G anti-gravity treadmill, but you're not going to pull me in full time, and I'm here all the time.
Right. I'm busting my ass.
And he was just like, yeah, he pretty much looked at me and he said, the Ultra G is more valuable than you. And I was like, all right. But that's what he said. And ever since then, I was so angry with this human being, like telling me that some machine was more valuable than I was, which was not true. But
Right. And you proved him
I
wrong.
did. Proved him wrong.
How did you decide to write your story, which is a letter that you wrote to your own body?
Yes. The struggles that I put my body through my entire life, I felt like I needed to apologize to my body for all of the ill thoughts and things that I've done to it. It's a very vulnerable letter. A lot of the things that are said in my letter, a lot of people don't know about me, but they just perceive me to be like this strong human being. But I feel like we all have weaknesses, and I felt like this was a good time to say, hey, like I struggle with the same things that you guys struggle with. I'm not as strong as you think I am. And this body dysmorphia, eating disorders, comparing yourself to other people or other trainers, or trying to be somebody, in this profession of 1 million people in this profession is a difficult thing, especially being a mother.
Would you mind reading your letter?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Absolutely. Dear body, I am sorry in the past for the cruel things that I said to you for many years, for comparing you to others, for starving you at moments of weakness when I was younger and consuming those godforsaken over-the-counter diet pills, expecting to look like the airbrush cover girls in the magazines, insulting you each time I passed your reflection, wishing you had bigger breasts, a larger booty, more defined arms, leaner legs, and those killer six-pack abs, grabbing and pinching at you until you were black and blue, having others dictate what is expected of you when it comes to running faster, squatting deeper, pressing heavier. I am sorry for underestimating you by not having faith that you are capable of doing all of those things and so much more, for saying thank you with a fake convincing smile when others would compliment you but internally tearing you apart, not embracing your curves, not acknowledging that you are the beautiful gift that God has blessed me with to walk this earth in, for my constant insecurities and lack of confidence. I apologize for the lame excuses I made for not having enough time to take proper care of you, for editing Facebook photos and cropping off the areas I feel are not up to expectations, leaving you out in Snapchat shots and filtering you in Instagram because you just look way too pasty and pale. I'm sorry for my extreme body dysmorphia. I'm sorry for exhausting you with my disordered perception of you and my constant obsession over my physical features. I'm sorry. Today, I am strong. I am accepting of myself. I am powerful. I spend my time complimenting you, feeding you healthy foods, and hydrating you. You give me a reason to run, to lift, to compete, to dance in the rain, frolic carelessly and fearlessly through obstacles. I thank you for the weaknesses, for they have given me the most strengths, for the doubts. Without them, I could not reach my PRs, max, ranks, or receive those fancy medals at the end of each race. and for the scars and many surgeries, for they are a reflection of my amazing journey on this earth. Most of all, thank you for carrying and protecting the loves of my life, my sweet daughter and amazing son. I now embrace my battle wounds, the stretching of my skin, the struggles, and my many flaws. I have so much more free space in my day now that I have stopped being negative and obsessing constantly about my body, but choosing healthy over skinny. I have chosen self-love over self-judgment, and I can now pass the lesson on to my beautiful children. We are all imperfect permanently and inevitably flawed. That, my friends, is what makes us so beautiful. Embrace. Be beautiful. Sincerely and unfiltered, Lauren Meyer, fitness expert and fit mom.
Thank you for reading it.
Yeah, man.
That's not easy to do. You did a great job reading that.
Thank you.
Did your unhappiness with your appearance come from you and your own mind or from an outside force?
I feel like that question can be in so many directions, but I feel like it's somewhat of a chemical imbalance, but at the same time, I feel like the pressures of being the athlete that I was what made me so insecure, and having the pressures, from my parents and my coaches definitely had. I'd be lying if I told you it didn't have an influence on me. Definitely pushed me over the edge.
Was it a difficult decision to have children or to have your second child because of the changes being pregnant has on one's body?
It was a very difficult decision. I had my concerns, but once that human was growing inside your body, I believe those concerns went out the door. I knew that it was a 10-month span of unselfishness, and after that, I could go back to working hard, and it almost made me a better athlete because I had to work harder to maintain a goal when it came to my body image. But when you feel those little flutters in your body, nothing's more important than that moment, and you just put everything else aside.
Yeah. Why is working out one of the hardest things to start, but also one of the most addicting activities once you've actually started?
Do you have experience with this, or?
I do.
You do?
Not lately, but no, I do. We were members of the YMCA because it's hard to start. But for me, once I started, I couldn't give up because then I'd feel bad about myself.
But you did give up.
I did give up because shit got crazy with my knee and with we had a baby, and there wasn't.
I mean, those are.
Here we go. Here comes the trainer. Here comes the trainer.
Excuses
Yes.
that we hear.
All right, let's hear it.
Those are absolutely the most common excuses we hear.
But it is one of those things, at least for. I mean, isn't it? Where it is really addicting. Once you're locked into it, it is addicting.
Yeah.
Because you can see results.
Yeah.
And things like that.
It's utopia. It's the endorphins just consume you. I feel like there's so much happiness in a day when you get those endorphins running that it's almost like empowering. Like you even if it's a 10-minute process of getting your heart rate spiked, you feel like you've, just like making the bed, accomplished so much already, you know, and done something good for yourself. And everybody needs to take that time too. As a father, and even with an injury, it's
hard to find the time.
You got to make the time. You have to wake up 10 extra minutes earlier.
I already wake up at 5:30.
So wake up at 5:20.
Well, I got to wake up at 5:10 because I got to make the bed now too.
Yeah, you have a busy morning coming on.
Does eating unhealthy food after working out ruin the workout, or is it justified?
Oh man. It's 80-20. 80% of what you do is what goes into your body and how you look. 20% is actual physical activity. So it's 80-20. 80% is what you are consuming throughout your day.
Are you talking about food or are you talking about life?
I'm talking about food, alcohol. And the 20% lies within your workout habits and life.
Do you ever eat cheeseburgers after working out?
I do not. No.
You never have?
I have never eaten a cheeseburger after working out.
Have you eaten a cheeseburger before working out?
I have never eaten a cheeseburger before working out.
Have you ever eaten a cheeseburger?
I believe so, once or twice in my life.
I know it. Are you serious?
Yeah.
So what do you have for breakfast?
I normally have egg whites, a smoothie, some yogurt, a banana maybe. That's about it. I have 5 meals a day, 3 larger meals, 2 snacks.
All right. So is the breakfast, is that a larger meal, that what you just described?
Yeah. So that's a larger meal, and breakfast is the most important one.
And then after that, what's next after
is
that?
my AM snack.
What's that? What's in that?
It could go anywhere from a Quest bar or a handful of almonds or a piece of fruit, depending on where my workout lies within that day.
Okay.
So, because you have to fuel your body or...
When do you prepare the almonds? Do you have a bag? Did you do that the night before?
I do not always do it the night before. I mean, prepping our food is always done on Sunday. My husband and I set aside, even with our busy life, 2 hours to just prep for the week. So he's actually the cook in the family. So he actually goes into the kitchen for 2 hours and gets our Tupperware ready.
Okay.
And preps our meals for the day. So if you had to rank your eating habits, 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, where would you lie?
I would say that I lie probably in a 4.5, 5. So I stopped eating cold. I used to eat maybe a turkey sandwich a couple days a week.
Okay.
But then a couple of months ago, they came out that processed meats are carcinogen, like smoking. Okay. So now I eat a lot of times just cheese and lettuce sandwiches.
Oh.
Which they taste about what they sound like.
That is interesting to me.
But so that isn't bad.
I mean, do you have 5 meals a day, or
no?
Do you skip breakfast?
No, I'll have probably like a Nutri-Grain bar or a Cliff bar.
So something really quick on
something
the go.
Quick, and I'll have coffee.
Okay.
I started drinking a lot of coffee.
A lot?
Well, like a French press worth every day. So maybe 2 cups. 2 cups. It's about 2 cups in a French press.
Yeah.
How were you able to turn your weaknesses to strengths and begin to accept yourself? Or are you still doing that?
I believe I'm the strongest that I've ever been, because now, at the age of 36, because of my children and because of, especially having a little girl, you just want to put out the vibe of, I'm strong and I can do whatever I set my mind out to do.
Right.
And I feel like my little girl just changed everything for me. Everything. The second she came out of my body and I was holding her in my arms, nothing else was important.
She's your second.
She's my first.
Your first, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nothing else was more valuable at that moment, and all of my selfish thoughts were placed aside, and my life was about her.
Yeah.
So I think that was the moment of definition 3.5 years ago.
How, as a parent, are you going to address body image issues with your children?
Same way I address it with all of my athletes and all of my high schoolers and middle schoolers. I'm not going to be negligent. I'm not going to ignore what's happening in front of me. I don't believe that my parents knew about my eating disorders and the struggles that were going on in my head. I think they were more consumed over, is she going to win the game? How many goals is she going to score? Is she going to make all city or all state? That you have to stop and talk to your children, sit across the table and have the hard conversations and see if there's anything that they're struggling with. And I feel that being the type of mother that I am, especially in the profession that I am doing, I feel like that I just give those vibes to my daughter and my son anyways. I'm not going to say that, boys don't struggle with body image, because they do, but not as common as females would, especially in the decades of social media and all of that stuff. So I'm going to sit down and just talk to my daughter and be honest and tell her my story and my journey, and hopefully that will allow her to be open with me when she has ill thoughts or struggles with her image as well. So.
Do you think your parents had any idea when you were growing up?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when I actually went to college, I was in the peak. When I got my full scholarship, I was in the peak of my eating disorder. I was probably 93 pounds my senior year in high school. And that's where my father intervened. And that's where my coach at VCU intervened. And they said, I have to gain a certain amount of weight by the time I attend VCU to play on the team. And I have to have weekly weigh-ins my entire 5 years that they were paying for. And I have to go to counseling once a week, sponsored by the scholarship and by Virginia Commonwealth University. And I had to public speak at a local high school once every 2 months. And so if I got below 125 pounds, even 124 during my weekly weigh-in, they were going to take away my full scholarship.
Were you on board with that, or did you feel like, listen, let me handle this?
No, I actually realized how selfish I was being. Like, my fuel on that field affected everybody, all the rest of the 10 players, and even, the 9 that were on the bench. Like, if I didn't come with my A game, if I didn't fuel my body right to be the most powerful athlete that I could be, not only were my teammates suffering, but, we're representing Virginia Commonwealth University. And I realized at that moment, like, if they're investing this much time and effort into me, I deserve to give that back to them. Mm-hmm. So I did it. I rallied it up, and I never looked back. And honestly, that's the reason I'm in this profession.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Lauren Sparrow Meyer, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
This is Andrew Paul Cronin, and you've been listening to the Q&A with A.P.C. To hear archived episodes, go to soundcloud.com/QAAPC or subscribe to the show on iTunes. For exclusive content, including upcoming shows, behind-the-scenes pictures, and more, follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at QAAPC. The executive producer of the Q&A with A.P.C. is Ben Riley. The music was arranged by Soup.